have spent my life as a scientist, and I have some understanding of how scientists operate and how the scientific establishment has aligned itself to the larger forces which are shaping the world, which are primarily business forces, which are shaping what is going on in terms of whole lot of industrial other activity, and of course they are also shaping the culture of the world primarily through the American cultural influences. And when we are talking about all of this, perhaps it is good to understand what is it that these interests are aiming at. They are in no way aiming at sustainability. There is a very serious interest in allowing things to get worse and worse as far as the greenhouse gas emission and warming of the earth is concerned, because when the earth gets unbearably hot, this is going to be a trillion-dollar business opportunity. There are two major trillion-dollar enterprises that are being pushed for. One is the so-called space mirrors. You take these tiny mirrors, when the earth gets unbearably hot, what you do is you put out billions of these mirrors very high up, which will then circle around the Earth's atmosphere and will reflect the radiation back into the space, will cool the Earth. And of course, this is going to be an enormous business, manufacturing these mirrors and then having them put up at these great distances away from the Earth. The other enterprise, which I think is even worse, I mean, what the impacts of these space mirrors, mirror shield, these billions of mirrors floating out there, would be on the atmospheric circulation and rainfall patterns and everything else is impossible to be sure of, and there can be many very negative impacts. But much worse is this sulfur business, which is being propagated, that you put out enormous quantities of certain sulfur compounds, also high up in the atmosphere up there, which would also absorb radiation and will cool the earth. And this is what is really being attempted, that there will be no genuine action taken to move in any way towards restraint, moderation, but that yes, we will go on immoderately using our resources and warming the earth, and when things get really bad, we will then seize this trillion-dollar business opportunity.
Climate change is a story of grave tragedies, and in many ways, many farces. It's a story where there are no heroes, certainly no angels, many, many villains, and very large numbers of victims. The victims are literally billions of people, vulnerable people, mainly in the global south, the third world. The villains are both in the global south, in the developing countries, and in some developed countries, and some emerging economies like China, India, Brazil, and South Africa, which formed themselves into a bloc called BASIC just before Copenhagen. 300 years of industrialization have caused huge changes in the global climate system, leading to a rise in temperatures across the globe, leading to changes in ocean currents, wind patterns, in the rates of melting of the great ice sheets and ice caps, in a rise in ocean levels, which are then impacting further the processes, the very delicate balances in nature that rule the carbon cycle. So now the world is roughly 0.8 degrees warmer than it was before the Industrial Revolution, but the results are already obvious. Something like 300,000 people dead last year in climate-related disasters, extreme weather events, such as cyclones with greater ferocity than before, such as changes in rainfall, and therefore not only just changes in aggregate rainfall, but changes in its distribution that lead to extreme stresses of moisture during critical periods in the growth cycles of crops, a rise in the frequency of storms. At the same time, paralyzing severe droughts. For instance, last year we had a 23% deficit in overall rainfall in India, along with a 36% deficit in the so-called granary states of the northwest, Punjab, Haryana, Western UP, and so on.